Hello and welcome to Rathod Science Academy. Today in this session we are going to see very important articles that have been in our today's in the newspaper. So let's get started with our discussion. First of all, I'll let you know the important topics and later on I'll be analyzing each and every topic, and at last I'll be giving you prelims practice questions as well, guys. Online students, please don't skip this video anywhere. Please do watch until last. Okay, let us see the topics of the day. The first one is Iranian Parliament mulls possible exit from nuclear treaty. So here this article is talking about Iran is going to exit nuclear treaty. That treaty is called as NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty. If any country which is joining any treaty, or if any country wants to exit or exited from any treaty, on that area UPSC can ask a prelims question. So this time, because of this war in Iran and as well as in this West Asia part, you may get questions on this treaties related to nuclear weapons. One such a treaty is NPT, and this year you may expect a question regarding this NPT case, and I'll let you know how the question will come from that NPT at last. So this topic is important from GS paper 2 under international relations, and this nuclear related technology, nuclear bombs, everything that you will be studying in your science and technology as well. So from that point of view also you can see this article. And next topic is manufacturing capital goods lift IIP growth to 5.2% in month of February. In month of February, yes, we had good manufacturing, and because of that, yes, there is increased IIP. IIP is nothing but index of industrial production. So on this index of industrial production, UPSC asked many times questions in your prelims. So you may get basic facts related to this IIP in your prelims, and this is important from your GS paper 3 under economy. And next topic is earliest census data set to be available in 2027. India has fewer villages than during census 2011. So this article is talking about census, and this year we are going to start our census, and this article is saying that by 2027 we are going to get the census data. So this year prelims who are writing this 2026, they have to know everything related to this census for sure. On this census, you may get a prelims based question. And next topic is sloth bear. There is one image of sloth bear that I saw in international edition of Hindu. So if you see any animal which is there in the newspaper, either it may be image or either it may be any article, there is a very high chance of getting question on that. And if you see the PYQs of UPSC, there was sloth bear in options of UPSC questions. That means you may get a question regarding the sloth bear. So you have to see in detail facts about the sloth bear. In yesterday's class we discussed about jungle cat. So in today's class we are going to discuss about the sloth bear. And this topic is important from environment and ecology from GS paper 3. And next topic is spirit of the law. Any attempt to police faith will result in high-handedness. In our yesterday's class, we discussed about Maharashtra's anti-conversion bill, right? So this bill had been passed in Assembly of Maharashtra. So this article is talking about again related to this anti-conversion laws in India. So in this article, they gave different states as example, like which state had been passed. So for this anti-conversion law, what exactly is this? And what are the advantages of this and what are the disadvantages of this? You may get a means based question from this area. And next topic is on the implication of euthanasia. Recently, because of this Harish Rana case in news, that is related to passive euthanasia, and again there is one article in your text and context related to this euthanasia. So again you have to see what is euthanasia, what are the types of euthanasia, and you have to see common cause versus Union of India judgment, and what Supreme Court said in this recent judgment. All these things that you have to see, and for 100% there is a chance of getting a question on this passive euthanasia in your examination. So we practice number of questions on this, right? So again you have to revise what are the points that we discussed in earlier class related to this article. Clear? Now let us see one by one. See this article, read out the title. Iranian Parliament mulls possible exit from nuclear treaty. So this article is talking about NPT. What is the full form of NPT? Non-Proliferation Treaty. So this treaty is about what? Nuclear weapons Okay, now my first question is, which is the material which we use to make this nuclear weapons? Uranium. Okay. Do you heard about this word isotopes? Anyone? I think in your chemistry +1 or +2 you might have heard about this isotopes. What is the meaning of this isotopes? We have atomic number, we have mass number, protons, neutrons, electrons. Can you recall all those atoms and the basis of atoms? So now tell me what is the meaning of isotope and give me example. Isotope. Come on, come on. No, not exactly. Hydrogen, deuterium. Have you heard this? Okay, tell me examples of uranium isotope. Normally, if you want to make this nuclear weapons, we need to have this materials like uranium. By uranium we can make this nuclear weapons, and even by thorium also we can make this nuclear weapons. And here we have three isotopes of uranium: uranium-238, uranium-235, and uranium-234. And uranium-238 is most stable. By this we cannot make this nuclear weapon. We have to use other isotopes of uranium like uranium-235 to make this weapon, right? So here this non-proliferation treaty is saying that we have to limit our proliferation. Proliferation is nothing but enriching of uranium. So if we have this uranium-238, it is the most stable. It will not go for nuclear fusion or fission. Do you know this nuclear fusion and fission? What is fission and what is fusion? What is fusion? What is fission? Fusion is nothing but we are making two atoms to combine. That is called as fusion. What is fission? We are splitting one into two is called as fission. And most of our nuclear weapons, they will work on what? Nuclear fission technology. Okay, on this nuclear fusion and fission, many a times UPSC asked question. Why? What is the reason? If you see, from where we'll get most of our energy from? Sun. Yes. From sun in our solar system, we will be getting incoming solar radiation. So with this incoming solar radiation, everything is going on in our atmosphere. We are getting proper heat. We are having this photosynthesis so that we are producing our food. Everything is related to this energy which we are getting from the sun. But sun is producing energy through which mechanism? Nuclear, fusion or fission? Fusion. So by nuclear fusion mechanism, sun is generating energy and that energy is spreading throughout our solar system. Okay, so this is one PYQ. Sun is producing energy through which mechanism? Nuclear fusion. And if you see your PYQs, I'll ask you one more question. And we have here nuclear fission also, right? Nuclear fission we have and nuclear fusion we have. Fission is nothing but we are adding two atoms and we are making one. Fission is one, we are breaking into two, right? And here we are two adding into one. So this is the difference between fusion and fission. So which reaction will produce more energy? Fission or fusion? Fusion, yes. So you have to remember this one. Fusion will produce more energy compared to that of fission. So now there are different experiments which are going on across the world. They are focusing on generation of energy through this nuclear fusion. On this, there were 4 times they asked question. I think that is ITER mechanism. So check once what is this nuclear fusion technology or experiments which are going on across the world. On that they asked question 4 times. Okay. So like that, whenever you are studying anything basics, you have to know everything from the ground level. So when you do your PYQs, then only you can understand how much breadth that you have to study regarding the topic. If you are not doing PYQs, then you will not understand how the question can be asked. If you don't know how the question can be asked, can you solve the questions? For sure, no. Okay, that is why you need to know about PYQs. They asked about nuclear fusion. They asked about difference between nuclear fusion and nuclear fission. They asked about how sun produce energy, by which methods, and they asked about the experiments which are going on regarding nuclear fusion. Why? Because it produces more energy compared to that of this, and obviously we want to produce more and more energy. Have you heard about China's sun, artificial sun project? Have you heard this? China is developing artificial sun. No idea? Yes? That is based on this nuclear fusion reactions, not fission. Okay, again that is one more current affairs. Okay, so you have to see in that way what is this and what is the advantage of this and why we can't develop this because of lack of technology. And if you are producing that much energy means we need to have the storage capacity also, right? If you're not having the technology to handle that much energy, then creating of that energy is also be getting wasted. So for that, here across the world researchers are doing some studies on this nuclear fusion now. So one such an example here is artificial sun project of China. Okay, everything is interlinked. Okay, now here see this article. Iran parliament mulls possible exit from nuclear treaty, and the name of this treaty is NPT. Okay, now you guys tell me why Iran wants to come out of this NPT. Okay, first of all, how question can be asked in UPSC? How question can be asked in UPSC? First one is, consider the following statements regarding NPT, and they'll give you statements and they may ask you which of these statements given are correct or incorrect, or how many are correct or how many are incorrect. That is the first possible question. And apart from this new NPT, we have other treaties like Wassenaar Agreement, Australian Group. Have you heard this? There are 4 important agreements apart from NPT. So from that point of view also you may get a question. And previous is question in this way. They gave in this way. They gave pair based, and they gave you the agreements: Wassenaar Agreement, Australian Group, MTCR, NPT, and they asked what is this, and they asked to identify the correct pairs. And again this time also you may expect that kind of question. So we have 4 groups. Please make a note: NPT. Next one is Wassenaar Agreement, Australian Group, MTCR. Okay, you have to see what are this agreement is about. And actually India is part of 3 but not NPT. India didn't sign NPT so far, but India signed all those 4 agreements. Okay, so here you have to see what exactly the provisions under this NPT. That's it. Australian Group, MTCR. Okay, now come to this article. Now tell me why Iran wants to come out of this. What is happening? What is happening in Iran? US and Israel, they are attacking Iran. What is the reason? Israel and US don't want this Iran to develop nuclear weapons. Yes or no? So if any country part of this NPT, that is non-proliferation treaty, that treaty has to protect that country because it is part of that. But despite of part of that, also Iran is not getting any protection. Then what is the use of being in that group? Yes or no? Are you understanding? So here US and Israel don't want this Iran to develop this nuclear weapons. That is the first reason why they came up with this JCPOA, Iran's nuclear deal, or everything that we discussed, right? So now as part of this nuclear treaty also Iran is not getting any protection. So because of this now Iran wants to come out of this nuclear proliferation treaty. Okay, I understand this is the meaning of this. Now let us see what is this non-proliferation treaty is about. Non-proliferation treaty is binding commitment and it is a multilateral treaty, and the goal of this treaty is disarmament of nuclear weapon state, and they want to promote peaceful use of nuclear energy. The first important aim of this treaty is they want to go for disarmament. So whatever the nuclear weapons are there in different countries before 1967, they have to go for disarmament. That means they have to remove that, and even they have to go for peaceful use of nuclear technology. So whenever any country join this NPT, they have to give permission to IAEA. So what is IAEA? That is International Atomic Energy Agency. So what this agency will do here is it will do inspections in the countries which are part of this NPT, and they will ensure that there is no further enrichment of uranium-235 is there. And they have to ensure that this whatever the enrichment of uranium they are doing, they have to use for running of only nuclear power plants. That means only for peaceful use for civilian purpose, not for making of nuclear bombs. Okay, so if you see some facts here, it came into picture in year 1970 and around 191 states are members of this NPT. But remember one thing, India is not a member of NPT so far. Okay, what is significance of this NPT? So they want to reduce this nuclear threats. And this one is they want to strengthen nuclear arsenals, and they want to focus on decreasing of nuclear diplomacy. So these are the three important aims of this NPT. So they want to ensure the use of nuclear weapons only for the civilian purpose, not for this harming of other countries, or it will like protect the states to do this nuclear war. But what is happening here? US, Israel, they are using this nuclear weapons, and even they are attacking this kind of things, right? So they want to come out of this treaty. And now tell me guys, if Iran is coming out of this treaty, what will be the potential impacts? First one here is, now it will enrich uranium. Then what happens? It will make more and more nuclear weapons. Then what happens? Nuclear war can happen in future. And next, Iran is, in yesterday's class we discussed, Iran is also listed in blacklist of FATF. That means it can also give this nuclear weapons to these terror organizations, and they can use that. Then what happened? Everything can be smashed. So that can be happen in the future if Iran comes out of this nuclear proliferation treaty. Are you understanding? First one here is, Iran can go for enrichment of its nuclear weapons. It can go for further enrichment of uranium beyond their nuclear limits. And next one here is, that will lead to the increasing of making of equipments related to this nuclear things, so that it will increases fears. And next one here is, there is loss of security, and even there are certain military risk also can happen if Iran is coming out of this. Yeah, like this guys. So see this next article. Manufacturing capital goods lift IIP growth to 5.2% in February. So what is the meaning of this article and what are the keywords? IIP, what is the full form of IIP? Index of Industrial Production. So why it is important? So this article is saying that if you see this infographic, can you say this infographic? In October 2025 it is all-time low, and in February now it is 5.2. So now you guys tell me why this index of industrial production is useful, or like why we have to go for identifying of this index. Index of industrial production, it related to which sector? Primary, secondary or tertiary? Secondary. Secondary means nothing but our manufacturing sector. Okay, so here this article is saying that IIP is 5.2 means, yes, overall we are doing something good, like we are doing well in this manufacturing sector compared to that of this October 2025. You can say this graph like we have a dip in this October month, but now compared to this, yes, we increased our industrial production. Okay, now tell me guys, what is the impact of increasing of industrial production? What can be inferred? Come on, think and tell me, you can do it. If industrial production is increased means what? Is that a good sign or a bad sign? A good sign. How it is a good sign? Okay, we are producing more and more goods. If you are producing means obviously we have to sell them somewhere. If you are not selling them, production is waste, right? That means we can increase our exports to other countries. Yes. If you are increasing our exports, then what happen? Will we give it free of cost for other countries? No. There is no given free relationships, right? So they will be giving money. So they will be giving in dollars or foreign currency, so that what happen, we can increase our foreign reserves in our country. So if you are getting more and more foreign reserves, then what happen? What about the value of rupee? Increase or decreases? If we are getting more and more dollar inflow into our country, then what happen? Obviously there will be increased demand for our rupee. So if there is increased demand for our rupee, then what happens? What about the value? Value will be increasing, and this concept is called as appreciation. Now this is very important for our country. Why? Because in the recent past, from October onwards, drastic fall of Indian rupee value is seen in news, right? So $1 is equal to more than 93 rupees now. So we have to stabilize our rupee. For that, we have to increase our exports more and more. And next, yes, if we are producing more and more, we can create more and more employment opportunities. Obviously, we can reduce unemployment problem in our country. So if we are creating more and more employment, we have to give salary. Without wages, labor cannot work, right? So here there will be increasing of standard of living of people, and we can control poverty, hunger, malnutrition to some extent. Next, if you are producing more and more goods, will it contribute to our GDP or not? Yes, we can also increase our GDP. So this is the inference. Are you understanding? Okay, now you have to see some facts related to this IIP. Okay, what is index of industrial production? It is one key statistical tool. This will measure short-term changes in the production of our industrial sector. In our industrial sector, it will measures about the short-term changes. Every month we will be getting this IIP. Then the question is, ma'am, should I remember all these months? No need. So just after 1 year, you will be having this economic survey. In that economic survey, overall IIP they will give. So just remember that single number. No, it is not like you have to remember every month. It won't happen also. Just you have to see whether increasing or decreasing. That's it. Now from October 2025, if we compare with February, there is a good industrial production. Remember that self. No need of remembering 5.2, 2.5 like that. Okay, next one here is this. IIP will provide insights into the growth or contraction of industrial activity. So if it is 5.2, so if you see that graph, we can understand that whether our industrial production is increasing or decreasing. That is called as expansion or contraction of our economic activity. And who will publish this? Very important. You may get questions on this. So whenever you are seeing any indices of your economy, or else whenever you study about capital market or money market, you have to see which is the regulating authority. For example, capital market is regulated by SEBI. If you see banking is regulated by RBI. So like that, whatever you are studying, you have to see which organization will be regulating that. On this, UPSC will ask question. If you practice the questions of PYQs, you are going to be like IRS officer also. You will be applying for that post also, IRS, IT IRS, direct tax and indirect tax, right? So there you have to know the basis of economy. Without knowing of basic of economy, why they will recruit you? Yes or no? Are you understanding the basic funda? So here, because of this, whatever the things that you are studying for your examination, you have to know which is the regulating authority. For example, if you are studying about tsunamis or floods from disaster management, you have to know which organization will be giving updates related to that. Are you understanding? For example, if you are talking about primary market and secondary market, what exactly happens in this primary market, what exactly happens in the secondary market, that is a basic thing that you have to know. And if something goes wrong, who will be dealing with the disputes? So whenever you are reading anything, just blindly don't read line to line everything. So just understand the basic thing. What is that? What is happening? If everything goes right, it's okay. If something wrong happens, who will be taking care of? Who is the responsible person for that? And if you want to file a case, where you can file a case, and who will be giving the judgment. So try to know that in deep. On that areas only UPSC will ask you question. Why? Because after appointing you as a district collector, can we ensure that everything will go right? Many a times disturbance can happen, many a times lots of problems will happen, and many a times you may also involve in lots of cases, right? So here you have to know if something wrong happens, who will be the authority? What will be the punishments? On this only UPSC will ask the questions. Are you understanding? So you have to see for sure who is the implementing authority and who is responsible for that for sure. So here IIP is released by CSO, Central Statistic Office, which comes under MOSPI, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. On this, UPSC can ask a question. So IIP released by NSSO. It will be a wrong statement. It is by CSO. Okay, and the current base year is 2011 to 2012. And recently we had one current affairs related to base year. What is that? GDP new series we came up, and what is a new base year for GDP calculation? 22 to 23, right? So how can you expect a question? So we have CPI, we have WPI, we have IIP, we have GDP. So for all these things we will use base years, right? So only there is updation related to GDP. So how can you get a question? Consider the following statements regarding base year. And they will give you statements where we will use different base years. Are you understanding? So for IIP we will use 2011 to 2012. And in the second statement they will give about CPI. In third statement they may give about WPI. Fourth statement they may give about GDP. This is a very possible question. This is highly possible question in your prelims. So you have to interconnect every dot. Okay, don't just read isolated. Are you understanding? Okay, next one here is the base year revision happened for this IIP for the 4 times in 1937, 1946, 1951 and 1956. But now we are using this 2011 to 12 as a base year to calculate this IIP. And on this UPSC asked question twice. What is the composition of IIP? Please make a note. In this composition we have manufacturing sector, we have mining and we have electricity. And in these 3, the largest proportion is manufacturing sector, second one is mining and third one is electricity. And on this also UPSC asked question once, only once. It is about IIP and core industries. They said that the percentage of core industries is 57 or 55% they gave, but it is 40% only. So this is the PYQ that I can recall right now. They asked. Okay, they asked twice on this and they asked once on this statement. So 8 core industries will form only 40.27% in this IIP. They gave more than 50 in examination one statement. So if you know these numbers, you can easily eliminate that statements and you can pick up the right answer. Are you understanding? Okay, tell me what are those 8 core industries, guys? Tell me that 8 core industries. And this is also previous question. They asked, they gave like 5 I think, and they asked which of the above are core industries. Okay, which are those 8? I remember in this way only. Ferns 3C, because I am from biology background, I know about this fern. F for fertilizer, E for electricity, R for refinery, N for natural gas, S for steel, 1 for coal, crude oil, cement. So these are the 8 core industries. On this UPSC asked already question. They gave in this way, consider the following industries. They gave 5 or 6, I think 5 only. And they asked which of the above or in this 8 core industries. Only once they asked question on this. Okay, it is in 2019 or 2018. 2018 or 19, that's it. Okay, that is the one, guys. And see this next article, there is one image. It is about sloth bear. So if you see this PYQs of environment and ecology, for sure there will be a question regarding this species which is in news. There is no exception, there is no choice for you guys. And how they'll give question is, earlier whatever the options they gave and whatever the animal species they gave in the options of questions, they are reframing the questions on those options, and sloth bear is there in that. So today I find this image in International Edition of Hindu, and I thought that just let us have a discussion on this, so that if there is any question on this, at least you will try to eliminate one or two statements so that you can come with a correct answer for that question. If you see about this sloth bear, one important point I want to mention here is, have you heard about this estivation and hibernation? In your school days, I think you might have came across that estivation and hibernation. What is this mechanism? Estivation? Okay, summer sleep, winter sleep. Have you heard about this summer sleep and winter sleep? Why they'll go for summer sleep and winter sleep? Environment is done. Come on, tell me. Due to high temperature, they cannot withstand. So what they'll do here is, the animals which cannot withstand this high temperature, they'll go into this burrow, and they will try to sleep entire this summer season is done, and after that they will come outside. But what happens in this winter sleep? Normally in this polar regions, in its winter season, do you know this poles, North Pole and South Pole, only 6 months they'll get sunlight, 6 months they'll not get sunlight. No? Yes or no? Angle of inclination? No idea. Geography is going on now. So see that globe which shows that there is angle of inclination. So because of that angle of inclination, poles will receive sunlight only for 6 months. In 6 months they will be not getting sunlight. So normally in the winter season in this polar regions, there will be extreme temperature, minus degrees temperature. So because of this, the animals which mainly present in that area cannot withstand in that very low temperature. And what happens, even the layer of this, do you know, normally in the winter season, even this Dal Lake of Kashmir also, the upper layer of lake will be frozen into ice. Do you know that? And now tell me guys, only upper layer is frozen, but not why this inside in deep water is not get frozen, right? Only the upper layer is get frozen. What is the reason? What is the reason? Temperature decreases. It is also on PYQ in 1986. Come on, tell me. Why only upper layer of water is frozen, not underwater? Have you seen in many reels also, normally people will go and will break this ice at the top layer, and they'll catch the fishes. I don't know whether you see this kind of reels or not, but tell me guys, what is the reason? What is the special property of water? I'm shouting like anything, but I'm not getting any answer guys. Did you complete inter? Everyone +2, +1. In physics, first chapter will be this only. 0 to 4 degrees. Very good. Tell me answer tomorrow. Why only top layer of water get freezed than this water inside? It is PYQ guys. You have to know, because from basic chemistry and basic physics also UPSC can ask a question. At least do PYQs. If you do PYQs, who are writing this year? Very good. Have you did your PYQs? On that day, I called each and every person in the class, and I told you the significance, and I showed you how all these are coming and how you have to clear prelims. Everything I took class for 2 days. 2 days or 3 days? I called everyone or not into my cabin. Very good. If you are not practicing means, what should I do? I am asking only PYQs only in my class. Shh. Come on, start at least now. Only you have less than 2 months. How many days is there for your prelims? Exactly. How many days, Govind? 54, 53. Till now you didn't complete PYQs. Very good. When did I said all these things? Okay, let it be. See here. So normally, which animals will see in this polar regions? Polar bear. Next. Penguins, okay. Penguins, polar bear, sea lion. Next, seals, animals. Okay, tell me animals which are present in this polar regions. They are like thin or thick. What is that law? Allen's rule, Bergman's rule. Have you heard about this? What is Allen's rule and Bergman's rule says? Animals which are present in tropical region, they have very slender legs. Their body is very thin. And if animals present in this polar regions or temperature low regions, their body will be very stout because they have to conserve the heat. Yes. So normally these polar animals, they are like stout. Can you imagine polar bear how it will be? Polar bear. Okay, compare that polar bear with the sloth bear. So tell me what is the difference between that polar bear, that image that is there in your mind with this sloth bear? Are these two same? Polar bear is big in size, sloth bear is less in size. What is about the hair? It is having hair, but what about this polar bear? Very smooth fur. It is not like this. Chimpir, it is like this one. That is not like that. Okay, so here the one point that you have to remember is normally polar bears will undergo hibernation, but the sloth bear will not undergo hibernation. To say this point, I went to there. Okay, so one important point that you have to remember is the sloth bear, which is normally seen in tropical regions, they will not go for winter sleep. But animals which are present in this polar region, they will go for winter sleep. Okay, now let us see some facts here. Sloth bears are one of the 8 bear species found across the world. Across the world in bears, we have only 8 species. In that, one is sloth bear. You have to remember this number also because in 2025, they asked about species of turmeric. There are 32 species or 33 species of turmeric across the world. So, if they are giving any question regarding sloth bear, they may give this. Across the world, we have 8 species of bear. And next one here is, they mainly depend on bugs and termites. Bugs and termites will be their meal. And they are seen in dry and moist forest, and even in the tall grasslands also we can see this. And they will take shelter on trees and as well as shrubs. And they are found in India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and even in some areas of Bhutan also we can see this animal. Yeah, and next one here is, in India we have 2 sloth bear sanctuaries. One is Daroji Sloth Bear Sanctuary in Karnataka, and one more is Jasori Sloth Bear Sanctuary in Gujarat. In Gujarat and Karnataka we have 2 sanctuaries related to the sloth bear. And if you see the conservation status, it comes under vulnerable, and under this Wildlife Protection Act Schedule 1 and CITES Appendix 1. Okay. See this next article guys. Earlier census data said to be available in 2027. India has fewer villages than during census 2011. So what is article talking about? It is talking about census, and we are going to get our census data soon. That is about this article, right? So this is a big event. It is not a small thing. Actually, we have to get that in year 2021 only. But because of COVID-19 pandemic, it had been extended. And because of this 106 Constitutional Amendment Act, again census and delimitation is in use. So this year, you have to see in clear about census. What is the census? When census started in India? Who is the father of census in India? What is the Census Act? You don't know where the question can be from. And next one is, you have to see about in detail regarding 106th Constitutional Amendment Act, what it talks about. 33% of reservation for women in Lok Sabha and State Legislative Assembly. And here again delimitation is in use. What is this delimitation? Yes. So these 3 are interlinked topics. So you may get question by interlinking these 3, or you may get a separate question. Okay. Now let us see the facts regarding this census. What is the meaning of census? Census means what? Come on. It is collecting, compiling and evaluating and disseminating geographic demographic, economic and social data of the people in our country in a specific time. In 2027 or 2026, how much population in our country is there? That is our population census. We will cover in that so and so area how much population is there, and density will calculate. And this one is, we are also going to see socio-economic status also, right? This year SCCCC is also there. So we are going to collect even social and economic data of that population. And it provides information of specific date and includes demographic, social and economic statistics. And next one here is, we have Census Act of 1948, which mainly talks about census in India. And next one here is, we have Article 246 of our Constitution, which tells that census comes under union subject. Very important, please make a note. Census come under union subject. If you have seen your PYQs of polity, they asked questions in this way. They gave 4 to 5 subjects and they asked which of the above comes under union list or state list. Okay, see once your PYQs. So in that format you may get a question once again. They may ask about education, they may ask about forest, they may ask about health, law and order, like that, and they may also include the census. Census comes under union list, very important. Okay, and what is the purpose of census, guys? We'll collect information for central and state governments planning and policy making. If you're not having the data, can we ensure proper planning? No, for sure. And next one is, it will help government's decision making about allocation of cash assistance to cities and states. And next one is, we have numerous national and international organizations as well. Okay, so for all these things, for sure, if you want to make a proper policy, proper plan, program or scheme, for sure we need census data. And see this next article, guys. Actually, we discussed this article in yesterday's class. Read the title, Spirit of the Law. Any attempt to police faith will result in high-handedness. Okay, recently state of Maharashtra passed this anti-conversion bill in assembly, and before that Chhattisgarh, and last year Rajasthan. More than 12 states in our country passed this similar kind of anti-conversion laws in India. So what is this anti-conversion laws about? Where they'll focus? They will try to ban forceful conversion or fraud or fraudulent conversion or through by marriage one religion into another religion. They are called as anti-conversion laws. So why these anti-conversion laws are important? Right to life and personal liberty, which comes in Article 21. So it is my right to live in which religion I want, to continue in which religion I want. It is my right to religion. And even we have right to religious freedom. Article 25 to 28 says that it is my right to practice, profess and propagate any religion I want. So again, these two articles are contradicting each other, yes or no? So here, because of this, different states are coming up with this kind of anti-conversion laws to protect right to religion. Okay, anti-conversion laws, officially termed as Freedom of Religion Acts. They are designed to regulate religious conversions. And the important objective of this anti-conversion law, it is to prohibit conversion which is done by force or any fraud or misrepresentation or by coercion or by giving money or through marriage. If you see the articles in our constitution, we have Article 25(1), which says that it is the freedom of religion. That means any person can practice or profess or propagate religion, but it will not include forceful conversion of any person from one religion to another religion. So if you want, you can make this judgment of Supreme Court. First one is Stanislaus versus State of MP. In that judgment, Supreme Court validated early anti-conversion laws, ruling that right to propagate does not include the fundamental right to convert. So Article 25 says that yes, it is your right to practice, profess and propagate a religion, but you should not forcefully convert any person from one religion to another religion. And we have Puttaswamy judgment, which says that right to privacy is a fundamental right and which is integral part of Article 21. Okay, it also says that yes, it is my right to privacy to take the decisions of like in which religion I have to continue. And next one is we have Hadia versus Ashokan case. In this, Supreme Court upheld that adults' right to choose their religion and life partner, stating that these choices are central to one's identity and they will fall within the zone of privacy. It is my privacy to decide to whom I should marry. And even it is my right to choose my own religion. That is the judgment which is given by Supreme Court, guys. Okay, and if you see about this anti-conversion laws, actually there are certain people who are arguing against, who are not accepting this anti-conversion laws. Okay, the first one here is Article 21, right to life and personal liberty. The choice of religion and the life partner is an intrinsic part of personal liberty. But after marrying a person who is of other religion, obviously what happens, the surname will be changed for women. Then what happens? Obviously the religion will be changed, right? So again, some people are arguing that in our India, we are living in a patriarchal society. After once marriage is done, girl's surname will be obviously changed. Then how can we stop that girl to change their religion? So again, this is one controversy is going on. And next one here is whatever the terms which are given in this anti-conversion law, they are very vague. There is no proper definition of these words. That is the second argument. And next one here is this kind of laws are trying to target interfaith marriages, especially they want to control interreligious marriages. This is also one thing. Why? Because in this Rajasthan bill, what we discussed, after once a person is marrying another person, if they are belonging to different religions, after marriage, if they are going for changing of the religion, then what they'll say, they will make that marriage null and void. That means they are targeting this interfaith marriages. So this is also one argument. And next one here is there are certain people who are saying that there may be a potential misuse of this anti-conversion laws. So these are the arguments against this anti-conversion laws which are given in this article. Okay, see this next article, guys, on the implications of euthanasia. What is the meaning of euthanasia? Mercy killing. In this, how many types do we have? What are they? Active, passive. What is active? We are injecting poison into the body wantedly to end the life of a patient, called as active. Passive is nothing but just we will stop this treatment. Either it may be life support, and even in the recent judgment they said that we are also going to stop nutrition and hydration. Okay, so here why this passive euthanasia is in news? Because of Harish Rana case. Harish Rana is a 32-year-old person who is in this vegetative state from past 13 years onwards, and their parents approached Supreme Court for allowing them to passive euthanasia. And what Supreme Court said in this Common Cause versus Union of India judgment? Right to die is also part of Article 21. Right to die with dignity is also part of Article 21. Yes, we can allow passive euthanasia in India. But before allowing this passive euthanasia, what is the need? We need to have a medical board. And that medical board, we need to have two medical boards. One should be in the hospital where the patient is taking the treatment. And next one, we have to arrange it outside. So if these two medical boards, after examining the reports and the condition of the patient, if they suggest for this passive euthanasia, now we can go for this passive euthanasia, right? And what about the living will? It is not only for the young people, even for any other, it is not only for the elderly people, for young people also we can go for living will. What is the meaning of a living will? So if the patient in that vegetative condition, parents, guardians and the doctors, they can make a treatment plan. That is called as living will, right? Okay, living will can be also done under this passive euthanasia, can be allowed under this passive euthanasia. It is given in this Common Cause versus Union of India judgment. That is the thing that we discussed, right? And even we discussed separately one article related to living will 2 to 3 days ago, I guess. Okay, that is about this case. Already we discussed everything clearly. So see these questions. First one, consider the following statements related to NPT, Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons Treaty. First one, it aims to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. It recognizes only those countries as nuclear weapon states that tested nuclear weapons before 1967. And next one, India is a signatory to NPT. One only? One. For sure, this 3 is wrong because India is not signatory for NPT. I said that. For sure, 1 is right. Don't think about 1. Think about second statement. It recognizes only the countries as nuclear weapon states that tested nuclear weapons before 1961, 67. Yes, it is right. Because according to this treaty, only the countries which tested these nuclear weapons before 1967 were taken into consideration, but later it had been expanded. So here 2 and 1 is right answer. And see this next question, guys. Consider the following statements regarding sloth bear. It is native to Indian subcontinent. It primarily feeds on termites and ants. It hibernates during winter like other bear species. Which of the statements given above are correct? 1 to 3. Very good. 2 is correct. What about 1? In which countries you can see this sloth bear? India, Nepal, Bhutan. What about 3? Ramayana anta vini Ramudu Sitaki emaitunnatunda position. I said no, they will not go for hibernation. Animals which are there in these polar regions will go for winter sleep. This is in tropical region. Why it will go for winter sleep? Shh. Answer is 1 and 2 only. Third one is wrong. That's all, guys. By this I'm concluding. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this class, please do hit the like button and please do share this class to your friends, and do subscribe to Rathod Science Academy. Don't forget, guys. Thank you, guys.